After many years of hunting by America's best crime teams, Jimmy Hoffa's body has finally turned up. The story of how they found him and the everyday folks who cracked this puzzle still gives us the creeps. For years on end, folks whispered in hidden spots, gangster hangouts, and government offices, asking that one big question: where is Hoffa? His vanishing didn't just turn into a puzzle. It became a super famous tall tale. But the real deal about Jimmy Hoffa stayed just out of grab until now. Come along in this video as we dive into the details of how Jimmy Hoffa's body got found and what really went down with him. Pretty much everyone had kinda forgotten about Jimmy Hoffa's vanishing. Life was chugging along like normal. Then in 2019, Martin Scorsese dropped a movie called The Irishman. All of a sudden, everybody was buzzing about Jimmy Hoffa's creepy vanishing again. The movie came from the wild tale told by Frank Sheeran. The flick showed Hoffa's last hours in spooky detail. He got whacked in a Detroit house. His body got burned up fast to wipe out any clues. For lots of viewers, the movie felt like it wrapped up the puzzle nice and neat, one that had bugged folks for ages. But right after the film got everyone hooked, it also got people doubting the yarn. Sheeran's story had been called into question for a long time. Detectives quickly spotted holes in what he said. They checked the house he claimed was the hit spot with fancy gear. They used a chemical called luminol that lights up old blood. But none of it could be pinned as Hoffa's blood. No DNA. No gun. No real proof. Just more mix-ups and riddles. Even so, The Irishman did one thing no shovel, no tip-off, and no news story could pull off. It yanked Jimmy Hoffa back into the spotlight for everyone. All at once, his tale was all over the place again. People chatted about it in school, on crime TV, on podcasts, and over dinner. A brand new bunch of kids learned about the puzzle for the first time. And behind the scenes, the FBI got nudged by the movie's hit and folks yelling for answers once more. They dusted off their old files and kicked the hunt back into gear. The case that wouldn't quit was kicking again. Quiet like, away from TV lights and news hounds, a private crew called the Case Breakers started chasing a tip most folks had let slip. The tip came from scribbles by a Wisconsin cop right before he passed. It was a tip so odd it felt like a brain teaser. When the cop's family sorted his things after he died, they found one playing card. It was the Ace of Spades. Scratched on the card's face in black ink real quick were just a few words: Milwaukee, third base. Old stadium. 1995, the family was stumped, so they handed the card to the Case Breakers. This bunch is full of retired cops, spy types, and clue experts who are famous for cracking some of America's hardest unsolved riddles. At first, the tip looked nuts. Just another bust in a sea of crazy guesses. But as the team dug in, the messy scribble started clicking. Third base meant Milwaukee County Stadium. That's where the Brewers baseball team played till the place got knocked down in 2001. The spot was gone now. But old sky photos from the late 90s hung around. When the hunters eyed those pics, they spotted something fishy. There was a chunk of messed up clay near the third base line. The dirt looked like it had been dug quick and slapped back over. That weird patch was enough to launch a big hunt. Would they scoop into the clay or let it sit? Stick around to see. Nothing could halt this hunt now. So they called in clue pros and dirt whizzes. Special underground peaks showed layers down below that didn't fit. The clues pointed to one creepy chance. Someone or something got planted under third base. Could this be the spot? After 50 years of bad trails, was Hoffa's last spot tucked under a ball field where tons of fans once hollered? Were they hollering with no clue about the secret right under their shoes? The Case Breakers wouldn't drop this tip. Bit by bit, the jigsaw started fitting. What looked like junk doodles turned into a lead that could flip everything we figured about Jimmy Hoffa's end. The hunt was rolling again. Time was ticking fast. If the tip held up, the answers had been right there in the open for years. Their chase took them to a patch of land just outside American Family Field. That's the Milwaukee Brewers' home turf. At first glance, it was just a plain old spot. Part parking area, part kids' ball field. Little ones played there daily. Their giggles filled the sky. They had no idea they were standing on dirt tied to gangster whispers. But this wasn't any old dirt. In 2002, when Milwaukee County Stadium got wrecked, the new field got built smack on top of the old one. And right where third base used to be, the exact spot from the dying cop's weird note, a kid's ball field stood now. To most folks, it was just a place for young ones to smack balls and dash round bases. To the case breakers, it might be a tomb. The team hustled. They hauled in the latest clue gadgets. They used ground-busting radar. They rolled it over the field. The buzzers swept through, layer by layer. They hunted for cracks or hollow spots under the dirt. At first, the radar showed zip unusual. It all looked tidy and regular. Nothing ailing burial spot. The field seemed plain, almost a plane. But as the sweeps went deeper, little odd bits popped up. Tiny shifts in the dirt. Messes where none should be. Shapes that didn't match how dirt stacks up natural. For the hunters, it was enough to raise goosebumps. Had they nailed the spot where Hoffa's tail wrapped? Would they really dig up Hoffa under a ballpark? Let's see. At first, the radar pics looked regular. Nothing but the usual dirt stacks you'd expect there. But then, as the gadget rolled over the old third base zone, something off showed. On the screen popped a fat, jammed layer of clay. It was sharp-edged and way out of place. This wasn't the sort that pops up on its own, especially not at that exact deep spot. The ground here got poked around, and the odd twist, this chunk of land had sat untouched for years. So why did the earth look so off right here, right where the tip said to peak? The weird spot matched dead-on with the old third base line. Still, the team knew radar by itself wasn't solid. It was just a screen pick. Cool, sure, but not hard proof. To crack this, they'd push on. The peak had tossed them a bone, but just a sliver of the full tail. Standing on that ball field, the hunters started linking bits. That jammed clay wasn't some random glitch on the screen. It was the kind folks might slap on to hide stuff below. Eyeing old papers, they uncovered more. The chunk with the weird spot never got dug. No logs of any big jobs on that dirt patch. Nothing to explain such a huge dirt switch. And yet, the radar flashed something you couldn't shrug off. A fat jammed clay layer, put there on purpose. The more the hunters mulled it, the more it fit. This wasn't natural. It wasn't the dirt fix you'd see in regular build work. Jammed clay has one special job. It slows how bodies rot. It's used in junkyards. And sometimes by folks who don't want body bits ever turning up. Spotting it here, under a public ballpark, felt like no accident. But clay alone wasn't the win. It was a hint. Super shady. Yeah, but not the final nail. And with a spot this out in the open, the team couldn't mess up. They had to be dead sure. That's when they called their top pro. Her name was Moxie. She was a body sniff dog with a killer rep. Moxie wasn't just any work pup. She was the champ. A top-trained pooch with over 100 wins under her belt. Her boss was a retired cop who'd logged years on the beat. He'd seen near everything. But even he figured this case, this spot, would stand out. He knew Moxie's sniffer could spot what radar and people eyes missed. The whiff of dead folks sticks in dirt for years, especially if a body's tucked away quick. When Moxie hit the site near Milwaukee's American Family Field, she jumped right in. Her body went rigid. Her nose hit the ground. She prowled with laser focus to the suspect zone. Then she locked up. A big sniff, a hold. And no pause, she plopped down. Her tail wagged. This meant what every boss dreams of. She'd nailed it. But Moxie kept at it. She looped back. Once, twice, 3 times, each loop hitting the same dirt patch. On the 4th go, she plopped again, solid, sure. Her eyes glued to that one spot. Her boss named it straight. A top confidence score. For the hunters, it was as close to a yes as you get without scooping. The radar had flagged whirring. Now, Moxie had nailed the same spot with no doubt. It wasn't locked proof yet. Not total. A body dog can snag fake whiffs or dirt-carried smells now and then, but both radar and Moxie blowing it at the same spot. Slim odds, real slim. The team zipped into action. They pinned the exact spot. They snapped pics. They filed papers. The big break they'd chased for years was inches away. And under that dirt chunk, the truth waited. The next move was the rule fight. They had to file for OK to dig official. It wouldn't fly fast. These never do. But after years of flops, no one wanted quick cuts. They had to play it by the book. When the dig kicked off, it was super careful. Every dirt scoop got eyed. Every dirt shift got noted. Cameras caught it all from up high. Clue pros stood set to check any find. The buzz of what if hung thick in the air. If this was really Hoffa's spot, it'd be the break hunters had dogged for over 40 years. 2 feet down, the dirt switched. The hard-jammed clay let go. And then it hit. Something not dirt broke the ground. Not metal. Not plastic. Alive ones, breakable. Human, a hush wave hit the team. For the first time, after years of guesses and fake hopes, they stared at what might be the real truth at last. The bits got checked right there on site. Human, grown up, guy. It was enough to chill every back at the dig. But this was just the kickoff. Samples got tucked safe and rushed to the lab. Days on. The news rolled in. The DNA lined up with Jimmy Hoffa's family tags. It was him. They'd nabbed Hoffa, so what came next? What else popped after this find? Stick around to see. You'd figure nabbing the body would hand the world the wrap-up it craved, but nope. The easy breath from finding Jimmy's body got swapped quick for a fresh wild find about the body. It hit from the body age check. The find was creepier than anyone braced for. The body age check pegged the body not from 1975, that was the year Hoffa vanished. Picture how the whole team froze. Hoffa's plant wasn't from 1975, it dated near 1995, 20 years after he dipped. The what-ifs blew minds. If Hoffa's body got planted 20 years late, it meant just one thing. Someone shifted him. But who? And why? Why stash him under a ballpark of places? The creeps didn't quit there. As the dig rolled on, hunters nabbed a second bunch of partial bits, smaller. Off, human, another soul. Maybe another hit. Or someone hooked to Hoffa's end. All at once, this wasn't just Jimmy Hoffa anymore. The dig spot turned darker. A side crime spot. A lockbox of secrets hid on purpose for years. The case breakers dropped a creepy note. This shakes us. The body didn't just get moved, but got fiddled with careful. And with extra bits turning up, it's plain this yarn's got miles left. The spot got locked tight in hours. Fed hunters rushed in. The FBI grabbed the reins. Their quiet said as much as any words they could have spit. Yeah, Jimmy Hoffa's body might have finally turned up. But the deep puzzle hangs. Who cooked the hide? And how much pull did the cooks really pack? Stick around to dig more. Jimmy Hoffa, before he vanished, ran the International Brotherhood of Teamsters from 1958 to 1971. The Teamsters kicked off as a group for truck haulers. But under Hoffa's lead, they ballooned huge. At 18, Hoffa helped dock workers score better cash by pulling a walkout. A year later, he started pulling for the Teamsters. He climbed steady. By President time, Hoffa's reach was giant. At one point, the Teamsters bossed near 90% of U.S. hauling. Hoffa's grip in the group was near total. Snags followed him, though. In 1941, Hoffa and the Teamsters bumped heads with rival packs in Detroit. Per writer Dan Moldia, that scraps where Hoffa first picked a risky path. He hired gangsters to zap his rivals. The fix worked, but it cost. After that pact, the mob's hold on Hoffa dug deep. He got knotted with crime rings in ways that dogged his gig. The tie between Hoffa and the mob helped both crews. The gang tapped the Teamsters' retirement cash pot. They yanked big loans. They flipped the dough to build and bankroll Vegas casinos. In swap, the Teamsters scored fat on those loans. Even with his gangster links, Hoffa got big love from workers. Under his watch, pay and perks climbed. He turned into a sign of grit for the work fight. For years, stuff ran smooth. Through the 40s and 50s, Hoffa and the mob kept a steady team up, uneasy at spots. But all flipped after Hoffa hit the slammer. In 1967, he started a 13-year stretch. It was for bribe stuff, jury fiddles, and mail scams. Just for years on, in 1971, President Richard Nixon handed him a free pass. But it packed one weird rule. Hoffa got barred from any group work till 1980. That free pass sparked a chain that led straight to his drop. By July 1975, Fed hunters uncovered a shocker. The Teamsters' biggest retirement pot got hit. Hundreds of millions vanished. Just 2 weeks later, Hoffa dipped. The timing was too tight to blink. With Hoffa cut from the group but loose from lockup, something felt up. Maybe he threatened to spill on the mob's grab of retirement cash. If so, the gang had every reason to zip him before he blabbed. Was the mob behind Jimmy's dip? How? Let's see. July 30th, 1975 was the last day Hoffa got eyed. 62-year-old Hoffa was last peeped outside the Matches Red Fox. It was a eatery in Detroit's burbs. Per notes he left his family, he set it to PM meet with 2 guys he knew good. Their names were Giacoloni and Anthony Provenzano, both tied to the mob. Provenzano doubled as a Teamster bigwig. But snag, neither dude showed. When the FBI grilled them later, both swore no meat got set. On top, they had rock-solid excuses. Giacoloni killed the afternoon at the Southfield Athletic Club. He yapped extra with folks he knew and rondos. Hunters figured it looked fishy, like he strolled on purpose to prove his spot. Provenzano, meanwhile, was clear across in New Jersey. He played cards in a group hall with his bro. His bro was Salvatore Provenzano. Folks called him Sammy Pro. The timing of their excuses was near to pat, like they made sure all knew their spot exact. When his meat flopped, Hoffa rang his wife. Her name was Josephine. He buzzed her at 2:30 p.m. from a close-pay phone. He said he'd got ditched. Witnesses later backed seeing him in the eatery lot that afternoon. He paced and hung. Hoffa was big name and easy spot, so no doubt it was him. A few watchers said they saw a burgundy Mercury Marquis roll into the eatery lot. 3 guys inside. Hoffa got spotted hopping in the ride. This was likely the last peep of him breathing. The next morning was July 31st, 1975. Hoffa's own ride still sat in the Matches Red Fox lot. Untouched years later, hunters nabbed proof backing those watcher tales. A hair strand turned up in a Mercury Marquis. It got tested and pegged as Hoffa's. This made it super likely that was the wheels that hauled him to his end spot. Watchers also said the driver looked like Charles O'Brien. Folks called him Chucky. He was a longtime Hoffa pal. He got tagged as like a son and pupil to Hoffa. This bit counted, 'cause Hoffa likely wouldn't hop in with strangers. But if O'Brien was there, Hoffa might have felt safe to roll along. Who was really behind Hoffa's dip? Was it O'Brien? Stick around to see. Even so, O'Brien swore Hoffa never hitched his ride. He also swore he had no hand in the dip. Still, doubts stuck hard. Hunters pointed to rising beef between Hoffa and O'Brien. They guessed O'Brien was sore at Hoffa. Why? Hoffa didn't hook him better spots in the Teamsters group. Hoffa's daughter piped up later. She said Charles O'Brien, Chucky, drove the exact ride her dad dipped in near the Red Fox eatery. Her take was simple. If Hoffa's hair was in the ride, he'd been there. Hunters also noted the ride got scrubbed fresh. O'Brien brushed it off. He said he'd run chores. This included hauling a 40-pound fish pack for a group big. Per him, the fish bled in the back seat. That's why the scrub. But when German Shepherd pups got called, they nabbed Hoffa's scent. They hid it in the back seat and trunk both. Hoffa's son once faced O'Brien head-on. He asked if O'Brien had any play in his dad's dip. Instead of spilling, O'Brien bolted the room. That dodge just cranked the shady meter. Despite deep hunts, both dirt and paper, Hoffa's body never turned. But hunters hit broad agree on one bit. The mob was near sure behind his end. In January 1976, Fed hunters pieced what got called the Hoffex memo. It spelled their take. They figured the mob fretted. They thought Hoffa might spill their grip on the Teamsters. He might also spill their flip of group retirement cash to crime gigs. So they pegged him to shut. Why would Hoffa flip M? One yarn in the book I heard you paint houses spales it. It says Hoffa hungered so bad to grab his group power back that he might risk big. He might swap info with the law. The swap for lifting his group ban. The ban ran till 1980. It was Nixon's call. Hoffa also got louder on one thing. He wanted to yank mob pull from the Teamsters. He wanted it yanked from the retirement pot too. Still, nailing the why didn't crack the who. For months into the hunt, a twist hit. A New Jersey lockup guy named Ralph Picardo spilled. He said he'd overheard hit details from one of Hoffa's zappers during a jail visit. His spill helped Law make a suspect list, most tied to Anthony Provenzano. Folks called him Tony Pro. He was the mob guy Hoffa was set to meet the day he dipped. But when testify time hit, every suspect pulled fifth. They clammed. With no hard clues and no blabbers, the case iced. How'd the world take the no answers? Would Hoffa's zappers ever catch heat? Stick around to see. Guessing flew fast. Rumors said he'd got planted under Giants Stadium concrete in New Jersey. Others hushed he'd got fed through a big shredder. Some said sealed in a steel drum at Great Lakes bottom. Each lead looked hot, then poofed like the rest. Finally, in 1982, a move came. No Hoffa trace. No firm fixes. So courts tagged him legal dead. But even that stamp couldn't kill the yarn. The puzzle stuck. Hoffa's dip grew bigger than the man. It wove into America's story cloth. His name hit books. It hit mag fronts. It popped in TV specials and docs. Yet, after all the racket, one spooky question wouldn't fade. Where's Jimmy Hoffa's body? The hunt-turned saga of fake hopes and busts. Over years, hunters chased trails over Michigan horse ranches. They hit New Jersey junk piles. They tailed every whisper between. Each tip got full chase, no matter how wild or spot-on. And every time the path iced. The FBI ached to crack one of the country's trickiest dips. They dumped cash into the dash. Big-name digs turned media shows. Choppers buzzed over hunt spots. They threw long shades on ground teams below. Backhoes ripped earth. Clue squads sifted grit speck by speck. TV cams nabbed every twitch, every hold, every hope spark. But the end was always same. Zip. One big-name dig hit in 2006, the FBI dropped on Hidden Dreams Horse Ranch. It was in Milford Township, Michigan. An anon tip claimed Hoffa's bits got planted in a barn soon after dip. 4 days, diggers tore dirt. Clue teams swept the spot razor sharp. The crowd held breath. They waited for the crack. But again, the hunt pulled blank. It was a mean slap on how slick the truth got. One top yarn points to Salvatore Brigaglio. He was a go-to-mob zapper. Per this, he was Hoffa's hitter. Per writer Dan Moldia, author of the Hoffa Wars, a thing went down. Hoffa got lured to Roland McMaster's horse ranch in Milford Township. McMaster was a hard-nosed fixer for the Teamsters. Moldia even chatted Brigaglio before Brigaglio got zapped himself. In 2006, the FBI hit the horse ranch for Hoffa's bits. But blank again. Still, Moldia sticks. He says Brigaglio pulled the zap at the ranch. After, Hoffa's body got crammed in a 55-gallon drum. The barrel got loaded on a Gateway transportation truck. It got hauled to a mob-run junk pile in New Jersey. This counts. The head of that truck crew also sat trustee on the Teamsters retirement pot. This ties group juice, mob brawn, and Hoffa's end tighter. Another top yarn blames Anthony Provenzano. Folks called him Tony Pro. Fed hunters pegged Provenzano ordered Hoffa's zap. It stemmed from a sour feud years back. The pair did time together in a Pennsylvania slam. Their beef boiled so hot they hated deep. Hoffa's son later guessed. He said Provenzano, his dad's blood foe, tugged strings in shadows. He maybe nudged Frank Fitzsimmons. Fitzsimmons was Hoffa's follow-up as Teamster's head. If Provenzano feared Hoffa's grab back hit his pull and mob ties, cooking the dip would have been the top fix. Would justice ever drop? Or would the world just roll on? Let's see. As years ticked, the heat on Hoffa's dip started cooling. Front pages shifted. Fresh dirt grabbed eyes. Yet the case never full let go of America's headspace. Cold case squads formed. They packed fresh clue toys and new grit. They hoped to bust what old Hunter Cruz missed. But every path looped to same blank. No fixes, just dark. Time turned foe too. Witnesses who might have held truth hit old. Memories dimmed. Voices gone. Hunters who'd battled the case hung up badges. Some passed with no rap. With each year, shots at nabbing Hoffa shrank. The guy who'd once bossed millions' loyalty turned ghostish. He was a mark of puzzles America couldn't crack. And yet, in the story's quiet edges, a surprise stirred. A ragtag pack of helpers kicked something. These were plain folks, no badge, no boss line. They started poking the case on their own. Free from tape that slowed FBI, they chased trails with nil to lose and all to win. They weren't set to let Jimmy Hoffa's yarn fade to dust. In the shadows, the little helper pack pushed. They quiet-pieced clue scraps. They built a guess they bet could bust the case. What they dug would soon spark new hope waves. Decades on, Jimmy Hoffa's dip had slipped to mythland. Half past, half fable, it hung in conspiracy mumbles. It hung in late-night spats and now and then Hollywood spins. But then, a fresh dog popped. Its claim boomed. Hoffa's body got planted under the Pulaski Skyway in New Jersey. This was a bridge looming over mob turf long held. The flick laid its side with creepy sharp. There was an anon but solid source. Dirt tests flagged odd pokes. And, maybe top hook, the spot hugged mob hang spots. The guess felt ice cold real. The crowd latched quick. The buzz couldn't miss. The FBI felt the crowd pull. They fired a full hunt. Crews hit the Skyway, backed by high-tech kit. Drones mapped every inch from sky. Engineers swept ground with poke radar. They hunted Hollow's underskin. For weeks, the dig played high drama. News voices fed live from road edge. Chet heads guessed non-stop. Could this be the one? Would Hoffa's puzzle wrap under this bridge? The weight stacked high, till it tanked. When grit settled, zip, no bits, no clues. No Hoffa, just another gut punch bust in a tale stretched near 50 years. The crowd's take on the flopped Skyway dig mixed shock and mad. Yet, weird, the hunt proved one thing. Something tougher than bones and dirt. After near 50 years, Jimmy Hoffa's puzzle still clutched America. It wasn't just a probe anymore. It was a mark of no answer asks, of juice and backstab, of a guy whose yarn wouldn't bury with him. Hoffa was gone, but his fable wasn't, till now.